What's going on, party people? Welcome back to another edition of PlayStation Generation, episode 62. My name is Matt, and I'll be your host for today's event. I'm joined by the incredible love guru himself, Mr. Denis Rukun. What's up, Denis?
What is going on? It's been a while. I feel like I haven't seen you for like a whole month.
Been a while. I know, right? Are you one of those fucking people that as soon as it hits like January 1st, 1201, you're like, I haven't seen you since last year?
No, I'm the type of people that on December 31st text everybody and say, "Oh my god, I can't believe I'm gonna have to see you. Won't be able to see you till next year."
Yeah, you would be.
I would.
This tracks. Denny and I holding down the show tonight. Rice is sick. Court's in an igloo somewhere, I presume. So Denny and I will be your chariots to all kinds of news. We're going to be talking about some Helldivers. We're going to be talking about some Druckmann, some Cerny. But then we're going to dive in to a lot of Xbox stuff because this shit is important, and we'll talk about all of it and how it might affect PlayStation Land. But before we do all of that, folks, thanks for hanging out with us. Denny,
Yes.
what you been playing lately, my dude?
Well, the last time I played a game I was still playing Yakuza 0.
Yes.
I finally got past the chapter, so I'm happy about that.
Hell yeah.
It got a lot more fun. So
yes, it did.
Yeah, I think there's still a little bit more that I have to keep paying attention to in terms of like story, but it's great. I'm surprised I haven't actually played a Yakuza game sooner.
Dude, it's one of those series that I feel like everybody's like, oh, I feel like I need to play this. And then it like, keeps dropping back on people's backlog. And then as soon as they play one, they are fucked. Because that is exactly what happened to me. I always thought of Yakuza before I played any of them. I was like, oh, that's Japanese like GTA. That's what I thought it was. It is not that by any stretch of the imagination. It is far and away from that. I started with 0 back when it initially came out because I was just so much hype around it. And then I never went back. And now I've played through all of them except for 5 because I'm saving it for like a rainy day when I have like a hole in my schedule. And I'm like, that's the last mainline one that I have to finish. I'm not ready to say goodbye to Kiryu in that form. So I'm waiting for it. But I'm glad you're enjoying it. I gotta say, it runs quite nice on the Switch too. It's quite pretty.
So I'm not a big pixel peeper kind of guy. So I don't sit here and that's getting added to the list. I see you already going for your book.
Go on.
Please continue. Sometimes why do I talk?
Go on.
I don't like really pay attention unless it's like super bad to like frame rates and like resolutions and stuff. For me, it's always been about experience, and the experience on this game has been fun. I've played it. I've actually been playing everything portably. I've rarely docked my Switch too.
Yeah.
So far, the experience is great. Runs well. I guess you can say is a bit of an understatement. Like it's a fantastic port. Most of these ports have been fantastic so far.
Right. Yeah, it looks really good. It's super pretty. It's a fantastic place to play. Obviously, if you're playing on PS5, you really can't go wrong. But yeah, anybody who hasn't waded into the waters of Yakuza Land, Yakuza 0 for the classic one, Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon for the new Yakuza, which is now a turn-based role-playing game. But you can't go wrong either way. Did you not know that?
No, I pay no attention to the Yakuza series.
All right, so there was a couple years ago, they put out a trailer on April Fool's Day, right? So Yakuza 6 was supposed to be like this big send-off to Kiryu. It was supposed to be his final game. They put out a trailer on April Fool's Day being like, hey, look, it's Yakuza, but it's turn-based, like it's like Dragon Quest. And everybody was like, that's so funny. And then a few months later, they're like, you know, that was real. That's the next mainline Yakuza game. So 7 and 8 are like full out turn-based JRPGs to the fullest, like going away from the action combat and becoming like genuinely like the main dude has like hero vision. So he imagines like all the people as like different kinds of like monsters and stuff. They have like abilities and elemental attacks and everything. It's really good. It's actually so cool. Surprisingly great. So that's what I mean. You have a journey in front of you, my friend.
Oh God, I need more time.
That's in short supply. As for myself, speaking of time and taking it, I have been fucking obsessed with Persona 5 The Phantom X. I know it's not on PlayStation, but like this stupid mobile gacha Persona game has me entirely in a chokehold and I cannot stop playing it. It is a gacha game. First and foremost, it is a gacha game, but they manage it to make it feel like Persona 5. And that's the witchcraft in this. It has like, you have like your dungeons, you have, which are massive, by the way. You have like the social side where you're hanging out with people and developing your, you know, your proficiencies and everything. I genuinely am so surprised at how good it is.
Yeah.
And how much I can't stop thinking about it. And every day I'm logging in, I'm knocking out my dailies. Like, I am invested. I am invested. Now, obviously, like the Korean and Chinese version has been out for over a year now. So they're like in like the 4th palace. We can only play up to like when you send the calling card in the 2nd palace. And then like they're going to be on a similar kind of content schedule to, you know, keep it coming. But dude, I'm hooked. I'm absolutely hooked. I cannot stop playing it.
I'm happy for you. Everybody needs to get hooked to a gacha game once.
Yeah, it's just it's bad. It's got me, and it's you know, it's not gonna let me go. All right, homie. We got a bunch of news. We got a bunch of questions from the audience today. So let's roll through this. Let's kind of start in PlayStation land, and we'll kind of make our way to Xbox territory. Let's kick things off with a story that I don't think is surprising whatsoever, given what happened with the 2nd season. But Neil Druckmann is stepping away from the Last of Us TV show to quote-unquote transition complete focus on game development. This is coming from Jordan Midler at VGC. Naughty Dog boss Neil Druckmann is stepping away from his creative involvement in HBO's Last of Us show so he can fully focus on Naughty Dog's upcoming projects. Druckmann has been closely involved in the production of the successful HBO series, which stars Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. I made the difficult decision to step away from my creative involvement in The Last of Us on HBO, Druckmann said in a statement. With work completed on Season 2 and before any meaningful work starts on Season 3, now is the right time for me to transition my complete focus to Naughty Dog and its future projects, including writing and directing our exciting next game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, along with my responsibilities as a studio head and head of creative. Are we at all surprised, Denny?
So for me, I guess I would say not surprised. I'm not one who's watched The Last of Us show. But I've heard that the 2nd season kind of like killed over and died at the end. It wasn't that great.
Not even at the end. All the way through, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's so I wouldn't be surprised in that sense. And you know what? That's kind of good given kind of some of the other stories that we're going to talk about. Like, I would love for Neil to go and work on upcoming projects and spend his time there and focus on that and make sure that there's quality products coming out. Yep. So for me, it's a good thing. I'm happy about it in the sense that, hey, this just means we'll get better games.
This, I agree with you. Like, I'm glad that his focus is there. My biggest questions around all of this is that, like, you know, Druckmann and Mazin, you know, Craig Mazin, who is basically the co-creator and showrunner of The Last of Us HBO, they worked very closely together on the 1st season, like very, very intimately building that out. And what we got was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, video game TV adaptations ever. The 2nd season, I don't know if it's because Druckmann was split focus on Intergalactic and the stuff going on Naughty Dog. I don't know if Mazin got high on his own supply and decided to kind of steamroll the process and make decisions that he felt were true to the character, which were far and away from the truth. But like, Druckmann only had writing credits on the last 2 episodes. Right. So like, and there's a lot of changes made, and a lot of stuff that they did that was just like not great. And apparently even Mazin has been talking recently about how like the 2nd season was a misfire. Mm-hmm. So it's not surprising to me that maybe Druckmann now, whether the relationship between them soured in the 2nd season or whatever happened there, if this means that Druckmann is now zeroed in only on Naughty Dog and the projects that they're working on, that's good. That does make me worried for Season 3, because the best parts of Season 2 were the parts that Druckmann was involved in for the most part. And if he's now entirely out of the equation, I worry that what Mazin will do with the fundamental misunderstanding of a lot of these characters and choices that make no fucking sense and directly go opposed to what we know in the character, in the characters and the plot of the 2nd game, the better game. So
I feel like this is where Season 3 might be like the fork in the road type of thing. Where I don't know, because like they did this with other franchises as well, where like if there's a book, the book goes one way and the TV show goes the other way. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's what they do. I don't know.
I would be genuinely shocked if they. I feel like the 3rd season is going to stick closer to the game than ever before.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like Mazin understands that he misfired. But I mean, we'll see. At the end of the day, Druckmann is firmly back in his seat at Naughty Dog full time, and I'm very excited for Intergalactic. Hopefully, that means we get it before fucking 2028, because Lord knows when that game is coming.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Let's hit one more PlayStation story before we start to meander over to Xbox land, because Mark Cerny says that the PS5 Pro will get a major replacement for the current PSSR upscaler next year. This is coming from Jordan Midler. PS5 system architect Mark Cerny has discussed a major update coming to PS5 Pro in 2026, which will replace its PSSR upscaling tech. Earlier this year, it was announced that Sony and AMD have partnered on a Project Amethyst initiative, which is focused on delivering a version of FSR4, AMD's equivalent of NVIDIA's DLSS tech, to the PS5 Pro. This technology will be similar to Sony's own PSSR tech, which is a machine learning-based upscaler, but promises improved results. As a PS5 Pro owner, this makes me very excited because I didn't think they were going to do anything with this until the PS6. I kind of expected them to have the PS5 Pro be what it is, have this version of PSSR, and kind of iterate on it to some extent. I'm kind of surprised that what it makes it sound like is we're going to get an essentially like a PSSR overhaul ahead of the PS6 to take all of these things and make them even better, which is surprising to me because I thought that they would wait. But I don't know. Denny, what do you think?
Well, I look at it this way. I mean, there's been talk obviously about the PS6 and the development for PS6, and the PS5 Pro has obviously done well. A lot of people bought it. Why not implement FSR4? Use it as an opportunity to work out the kinks. Give it, give developers an opportunity to see kind of like how that software works or how that upscaler works. Because when I heard this story, I've also heard that games that want to use the new FSR model may need an update, so we might get another patch to update those. So developers are definitely going to be heavy involved, and it's the beta test to make sure that before they start sending PS6 dev kits, developers are very familiar with how the architecture works.
I think that's a very good point. I think that, why not use the current kind of ecosystem as your test bed? Make sure that this thing is fantastic, because what this actually gives me even more hope for is this rumored PS6 handheld, right? If they can get a solid version of PSSR or whatever this new FSR combination that they're working on running on handheld, that means that a lot of these games are going to run much better on handheld, which is if they are going to go all in on a genuine secondary companion piece in a PS Vita 2, having a lot of their games run even better is a very good thing, because playing on Steam Deck, sometimes if you implement the FSR and if it's done properly, you genuinely double your frame rate. And I know, so there's a hint of input lag sometimes, whatever, but not enough that I ever really noticed. Sometimes it's fucking wonky. Like Last of Us Part 2 did not use FSR. It literally breaks the thing on Steam Deck. But man, like if they can get this together and they can iron out all those kinks out of the PS6 and the handheld or the rumored handheld, I like the sound of that. Anonymous Boss, what's up? What's going on, homie? Welcome in.
Hey.
Prince G, I see your chat. I'm just saving them for when we start talking about Xbox, because I think you have some good ideas in there. So I'm just saving those for when we get to that story. But let's start to meander over.
Do it.
Let's start with a bit of good news. Because PlayStation hit Helldivers 2 is officially coming to Xbox with crossplay. This is coming from Jordan Miller at VGC. Crossplay across all three platforms have been confirmed. The online co-op shooter, which was released on PS5 and PC last year, will come to Xbox Series X and S on August 26th. Developer Arrowhead announced on Thursday. The game will feature cross-platform play with users on both PlayStation and PC. Both the standard version of the game and the Super Citizen edition of the game are now available for pre-order on Xbox. People have pointed out, interesting to see, that this is the same day that Gears of War comes to PlayStation. So we have a nice little bit of synergy going on there. Danny, how are we feeling about Helldivers jumping the fence?
I think it's a good idea. More people on a game, more people playing it means it'll probably get more support. I was reading in that article that Helldivers 2 was Sony's biggest hit of last year, becoming the fastest selling game launch ever. Now it makes me also understand why they're so pardon my French, but why they have a hard on for live service games right now. or
Dude,
had a hard on plus game.
that was their only success.
Yeah.
And like that one kind of came out of nowhere because like, a friend of the channel over on the Creature Cast, Steve Vari and I were hyping Helldivers up for a while, but we feel like there was nobody talking about it. I was a huge fan of the original, and the second one came out and just like erupted.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. I'm glad that this is making the hop over. I think this is one of those ones that a lot of people have been asking for a long time. I hope this kind of especially with how cooperative this game is in nature online. You're working together for certain objectives, you're working together across different planets. An influx of players is never a bad thing. How many is a question that I have, but any more people that are going to be able to check this out that haven't been able to before is a win in my books. Chris Zazer writes in, the Savista Gamer, with a question saying, now my question, what are the chances we see Halo or Gears of War content in game at launch? Do you think they're going to come out swinging with the crossover right away, Denny?
No, I don't think so. I think that we're just going to get the game. I've even heard that the game's not even coming on Game Pass right away.
No, it's not.
So, I don't think we're gonna get crossover content right away. I think we'd wait a little bit. Maybe 3 to 6 months we'll start seeing some crossover content.
I feel like, and this is like, tinfoil hat, as anonymous boss in the chat says that we mentioned big coincidence in the same time that Gears goes to PlayStation. The same day feels a little like purposeful. Like if Gears comes out and there's like a cape or some shit from Helldivers, and Helldivers has, I don't know, a helmet or whatever the hell, or a lancer or whatever you want to use. And Helldivers to have that kind of synergistic thing on launch. I could see it. I do think you're probably right. A down the road thing, if at all, is probably what's going to be the case. But I could see it happening day of.
That'd be interesting. Hey, it's funny, and I feel like, oh, now I miss Court because you get the analogy. Well, I'm sure everyone get the analogy, but like it feels kind of like a hockey trade or like a trade. Like you give me Gears, and I'll give you Helldivers.
You do know that trades exist outside of hockey, right?
Yeah,
like,
I know.
You could use Magic the Gathering. You could
I know.
And
I bought Magic the Gathering cards.
Dude, I was this close. My Walmart had the Final Fantasy starter packs. I don't even play Magic anymore, but I was standing there looking at them. I was like,
You've gone up in price. Holy crap.
They're like $14. Like
I bought a really?
Yeah, like
my Walmart has none.
Yeah, mine had a bunch.
I
literally was standing there staring at it, and my wife was like, no. And I'm like, but she's like, no. They also had a bunch of One Piece decks, the new ones. And like I was staring at the buggies, but like I didn't do it. Anyways. Go back to your analogy, which only works in sports.
Sorry, I figured because like I was like, oh, Court's not here, and my mind went to hockey. But yes, trading card. It's a 1-for-1 trade, and is he? Oh my god, that's dark.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel like this is a win. PlayStation is clearly starting to play the game a little bit. I am kind of shocked that they're bringing anything over to Xbox this early. But I mean, clearly Xbox is going gung-ho on bringing stuff over. So I'm glad, again, more players having the opportunity to play these games is never a bad thing.
You know what? I just had a thought.
Tell me.
You just said Sony's kind of like opening up to this idea. Helldivers 2 seems to be the safe bet.
Yep.
Because in terms of PlayStation legacy and franchises, I don't think this one has the same lineage if we saw God of War or something like that go to Xbox, right? Like kind of that same lineage that Gears of War has. Like it's been a 360 launch game. It's been one of those games they took away from a developer and had an in-house developer build or make games for it. I don't think Helldivers 2 or Helldivers as a franchise has that type of pedigree.
Nope.
So it's like a safe bet and like you can have this and we'll see how it goes. And if there's a benefit to Sony to continue to put out games on a class platform basis to like Xbox, maybe they'll do something.
I'm just curious as to like what their internal expectations are for sales on this platform, because like it exists on PC and it was already like a massive win on PC, clearly a huge win on PlayStation as well. I'm kind of curious to like the 12 people that still actively use their Xbox, like how many of these people are going to be hopping in. I do hope it's a few. But I'm kind of curious as to, I feel like this will be a test bed. If this thing sells well on Xbox, it was worth the time and energy that they spent to port it over. That's great. more power to him. But I do think you're right that like this is the game that makes sense. It's their live service. If they get more money coming in across the pond, then that's not a bad thing. I don't know. We'll find out.
We'll see. August 26th.
All right. Let's get into the nitty gritty of it all, because we are going to roll through a number of stories here, and then we'll kind of pause to talk about them as we go. Let's start with the 1-2 punch here, and we'll kind of break things down. As anybody who's been paying attention to the industry at all in the last week knows, Xbox has laid off like I think the total number was between 9 and 10,000 people. From its Xbox division. Continuing, it's like I think this is like their fourth round of layoffs. Over the course since ABK happened, since they picked up the Activision Blizzard King, a number of which were like from King, which was like their bread and butter moneymaker. One of which of these, coming from Andy Robinson over at VGC, Xbox has canceled its Perfect Dark reboot and closed its developer. The initiative will be closed as part of Microsoft layoffs. In a statement, Xbox Game Studios' Matt Booty said decisions, quote unquote, reflect a broader effort to adjust priorities and focus resources to set up our teams for greater success within a changing industry landscape. The initiative was set up to be this like ultra studio full of talented devs, full of veterans from across the industry coming together to like really make something awesome there. It was unveiled Perfect Dark. It's been in development for a while. Yes, we saw like a lengthy gameplay chunk last year. That not all of it was genuinely there. It was a vertical slice, for better or for worse. But it's dead. It's gone. And I'm going to kind of keep going on here before we kind of stop and talk about this, because Romero Games, coming from Andy Robinson of VGC as well, is now completely closed following Microsoft cuts its claimed. Romero Games, the Ireland-based studio founded by celebrated designers John and Brenda Romero, is now completely closed following this week's Microsoft cuts its claims. On Wednesday, the studio confirms it has lost funding for an unannounced shooter project after an unnamed publisher, later known as Microsoft, pulled a publishing agreement. All 100 are out. There was a story that literally they met with the studio the day before and gave no indication that anything was wrong or that anything was going to be happening. Of course, Romero did the original Doom. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it
software,
not?
Yeah.
A massive and heritage name in the industry that's been around for quite a long time. Rare's Everwild. Rare is also canceled. That's also gone. There is also ZeniMax Online also got Project Blackbird canceled, which is apparently a long development MMO that, by all testing accounts, the last few months, people were in love with this game. From kind of internal reports. Phil Spencer basically went out and said that he put out an internal memo that was published by Forbes, I believe. Jason Schreier got his hands on it, basically saying that like, the brand is better than ever. The games are better than ever. All of these things, their business is better than ever. Microsoft had something like, I think it was like 68 billion in profit last year. Things are so well, but we're going to have to lay a fuck ton of people off. I'm going to keep going here, because the Banjo-Kazooie and Sea of Thieves director has apparently left Rare after Everwild got canceled. This is once again coming from Andy Robinson. Greg Mayles, Rare's most experienced and influential game designer, will leave the company after more than 35 years, sources have told VGC. According to multiple people at the studio who spoke to VGC anonymously, Mayles will leave Rare following news of Everwild's cancellation on Wednesday. The designer had been directing the project since his team was restructured in 2021. Insane. Let's pause here. There's a couple more stories that we're going to touch on, but absolutely fucking wild how much Phil Spencer and the like of them were talking about how ABK would not matter. It was good for Xbox. It was good for the players, and nobody was going to lose their jobs. Now, quite literally, tens of thousands of jobs later, we see that to be the very case. And I believe it was Jez Corden put out a tweet today, or a skeet if you're weird. Was it Jez? No, it may have been somebody else, but it was one of the kind of trusted insiders that basically went on to say that like, this isn't over. Apparently, Microsoft is putting some wild mandates on everything Xbox. So prepare for more. Denny, talk to me.
Man, it's So, okay. So first of all, it's a lot to take in. And it really sucks because there's a lot of talented people right now who are without jobs.
Mhm.
Um, and 2025 just seems to be kind of the year of the layoffs and studio close down, like the studio apocalypse, for lack of a better term.
I mean, so was 2024.
Yeah,
So was 2023.
yeah. It's just I don't know, just maybe because like it just seems like there's a new studio being shut down every week. Every time we
Yep.
come here and we talk, we're talking about someone losing, like a studio going down.
Mhm.
Um, it's a shame, and kind of like what you said about Phil Spencer coming out and saying everything's great, we're doing so well, we're making a lot of money. If that's the case, why are we closing down all these studios? Why are we closing down canceling titles that people are looking forward to, and apparently singing their praises, and that people would actually be looking forward to. I think there's more, and you'll probably touch on them more, but I think there's a couple other studios
Yep.
that took a big hit that were basically printing money for Xbox.
King lost like 10% of this
Yeah.
workforce, which was like 200 people.
Turn 10, who makes Forza, lost like 50%.
Forza Motorsport specifically. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Apparently Motorsport is effectively dead. They lost 50% of their staff.
And it's like, what are you doing? Like, what is this crazy mandate? Like, how lean are you trying to get? And I think there was a comment in chat right now that someone said that they basically have turned into ABK 2.0. We're just shoveling slop.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring Prince in because they had
Yeah,
a
there's
number of
Prince.
comments here. We used to say that Xbox had no games. Now it's more true than ever. Xbox Studios is effectively a slop dev now. COD, Doom, Minecraft, and Halo. They've lost all their creativity and originality from the OG and 360 era. Damn shame. Does I enjoy their unique exclusives once, but although I've been a PlayStation fan forever, they're essentially ABK 2.0, and I think that is entirely accurate.
Yeah.
All of these people, and the issue here is, yes, the obvious upfront part of all of these people are now out of work. There is an incredible amount of talent in this pool of people who are not making games at this moment. On top of that, how many of them are just going to leave the industry because it doesn't seem like it's sustainable anymore? We are losing genuine talent and the ability to make potential classics because of mismanagement by executives. We're going to see less people want to make their way into this industry because of a lack of job security. Because you make a good game, your studio gets canned,
Done.
like Hi-Fi Rush, who
Mhm.
and managed to save. You make a bad game at the request of the executives, and you get your shit canned. You're making a game that looks fantastic, a reboot of a popular franchise. I wanna bring in a couple questions here. Justin writes in saying, do people really care about Perfect Dark? Maybe a new IP should have been done instead of rebooting it. I think that Perfect Dark had every potential to be big again.
Yeah.
I'm literally playing the original right now because I'm going to be on Remember 64, one of our channel partners,
Mhm.
in a couple weeks. And like this had all the potential, if they brought it back in the way that they were doing it, to be like the next Deus Ex, to be the next Tomb Raider, for franchises that had not been popular for quite a while and stood the chance to come back and to be something new and to be something special. You had the inherent IP buy-in from fans of the original and people
Mhm.
like myself who saw that vertical slice and were like, "Oh shit, that looks cool. I've never
Yeah.
played Perfect Dark. I don't give a fuck about this IP." But I'm curious enough to learn more. Again, if it was new IP, I think you have a harder hill to climb. If there is somebody that says, I've heard of Perfect Dark, that name sounds familiar. I don't know why. Oh shit, that looks kind of cool. All right, I'm in. I think that is the greater until buy-in than anything else. It's incredible that we are losing all this talent. We're losing all of these incredible developers. Meanwhile, and I'm gonna bring in the next two stories here. Because there was a rumor going around that Phil Spencer was going to retire. Coming from Jordan Midler, Xbox insists boss Phil Spencer is not retiring anytime soon. Phil Spencer became the CEO of Microsoft Gaming in 2022 as part of an almost 40-year career at Microsoft. On Wednesday, amid Microsoft's widespread layoffs, claims appeared online that Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer was due to retire from his position soon, with Sarah Bond lined up to succeed him. However, Microsoft has taken the unusual step of flatly denying the rumor. This claim was refuted first on X by Frank Shaw, Microsoft's head of communication, who claimed that any such story about Phil's retirement was "quote unquote" made up. Later on Wednesday, in a statement to The Verge, Microsoft flatly denied the claim, claiming that Phil is not retiring anytime soon. And let's bring in one more just to really showcase Microsoft executive right now, because um, in the midst of all these layoffs, Xbox producer criticized for suggesting laid off devs should use AI for career planning and emotional clarity. This is coming from Andy Robinson of VGC. Matt Turnbull, an executive producer on Xbox games like Crackdown 3, State of Decay 2, and Forza Motorsport, posted a comment on LinkedIn following news of Microsoft's huge round of layoffs, which has seen multiple products canceled this week and potentially thousands laid off. Quote, these are really challenging times, and if you're navigating a layoff or even quietly preparing for one, you're not alone and you don't have to go through it alone. I know these types of tools engender strong feelings in people, but I'd be remiss in not trying to offer the best advice I can under these circumstances. I've been experimenting with ways to use LLM AI tools like ChatGPT or Copilot, plug, to help reduce the emotional and cognitive load that comes with job loss. The producer went on to suggest some prompt ideas like, he said, might help if you're feeling overwhelmed, including career planning, networking and outreach, and emotional clarity and confidence. One suggested prompt reads, I'm struggling with imposter syndrome after being laid off. Can you help me reframe this experience in a way that reminds me what I'm good at? What a fucking load of shit. I'm sorry. I'm
Oh
not even
my
going to bother going
god.
to continue
No,
on with this slot.
don't.
Because how is it that tens of thousands of people are going to lose their jobs because of the decisions that these fucking executives are making, and they suffer not at all? No job loss. It's not like these decisions are coming from the fucking top. I'm sure it's the people working in the trenches at any of these studios that deserve to fall on the blade for decisions made way so far up above their head and so far out of their scope and reach. But yeah, it's their fault. They're the ones. And like literally the day after they fucking Microsoft did all this, they sent out like a memo to like potential people coming to some event being like, we're hosting an AI roundtable, because clearly Microsoft is going all in on Copilot.
Mhm.
SkillUp put up a video that I encourage people to go and watch about this entire Xbox debacle, and he framed it in a way that I think helped me understand things a little bit more. When the internet was coming to be and we was really starting to take off in popularity, search was that thing, right? You had Yahoo, you had Ask Jeeves, you had Google, all of these companies competing to be the engine, right? To
Yep.
be the one that you kind of adopted the internet as a whole, and Google won that race in a way that they have never been even remotely challenged since. In the last 20 some odd years, they have stood firmly as the people when it comes to anything internet, anything search. AI is this new frontier in a post-internet world. AI is the one that now all of these companies, ChatGPT, OpenAI, Microsoft with Copilot, are fighting tooth and nail to be the one,
Mhm.
to be the AI, the language learning model that will be the one to influence the future as we knew it moving forward, because that is where we're heading. Unfortunately, no
Yep.
matter what the fuck you do about it, this is the session where we're going. So clearly, Microsoft is here with truckloads of money, being like fucking all in on Copilot. Forget games, whatever. They're not looking at the Xbox division as anything more than a money printer, theoretically, to help bolster AI efforts across the board elsewhere.
Yep.
So all of these executives are fine. Phil Spencer, through horrid mismanagement, to his own admittance, has previously gone on record saying that he fucked up working with Arcane. You know,
Mhm.
what the hell was that game that they put out? The vampire game, the one that crashed and burned. What was it, Denny?
Um,
I
I
genuinely
don't
don't
know.
remember. You know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Anyways, that shit came flopped, flat on its face in a way that was, visceral. And he basically said, like, he's like, I wasn't involved enough, and now clearly they are involved, and it's just bold-faced after bold-faced sides. These executives who have run this gaming division into the ground. Xbox used to be, one of the big three, and now I am shocked that we are even approaching them as a new Sega.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. That's been the vibe for a while now. They're just gonna turn into a publisher or software house or whatever you want to call it. Just with a different strategy, obviously, than Sega. Um, by the way, were you thinking of Redfall?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
no problem. Uh,
Um, And Twango in the chat, what's new? PlayStation fans saw this coming, or what Xbox stands for 2 generations? Maybe, maybe.
yeah,
Denny, I want to ask you this, because
yes,
in the midst of all of this, of course, there's been a lot of analysts, a lot of scuttlebutt, but people basically are out here saying that, Xbox as we know it is dead. In the next decade, probably we'll see probably an entire phasing out of anything Xbox, branded outside of, like, you'll have Xbox game studios that'll basically focus as a publishing arm, and that's kind of where people see things going. Do you think this is partially the fault of Game Pass? Are we hitting the point now? Because for so many years, Game Pass was sung as the next step for the industry. Obviously, pushed PlayStation into a corner, pushed Nintendo into a fucking corner to have their own versions of it in whatever way, shape, or form. But a lot of devs are coming out and being like, because our game was on Game Pass, we didn't see as much of a return. Because our game was not on Game Pass and people expected it to be, we saw lower sales because we didn't decide to go on Game Pass. Are we hitting the point now where we're seeing the negative shadow of Game Pass?
Yeah, we are. I think just like any other streaming service that's been implemented, whether it and based on the in other medias as well, so movies, music, television shows, I think studios have had to adapt and understand how the revenue model is going to work for them. I feel like maybe game studios have not, and they're still producing and developing games the way they've known to do it for so long, but haven't adjusted or adapted to the way the money comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
and to go in the chat, PlayStation had PlayStation Now before Game Pass. Yes, but it was a very different in a very different form, right? PlayStation Now was not anywhere near what the current PlayStation Plus is, which the current PlayStation Plus is much closer to what Game Pass is than what PlayStation Now was.
Yeah, because like PlayStation Now, you still had to rent the game, and you could pick how long you rented the game for.
There was parts of it, and there was also like streaming only for the most part. They at one point did implement downloads, and that was essentially the pathway that led us to PlayStation Plus in its current iteration. But
live.
Man, I happen to like, I'm curious to see how this all works out. And it's interesting because we've had back and forth conversations over a number of years. And I mean, we as an industry, about PlayStation's very staunch approach to PlayStation Plus being like, we are not putting first party titles on the service day one. It's not happening. Never going to happen. Get over it. Indies, yes, some will come. We'll bring them eventually, but you are not going to be getting your Spider-Man 2 at launch. You're not going to be getting your God of War at launch. And it was a decision that was, a tense one, right? A lot of people looking at Xbox being like, well, why can't they do it like they was? And now we're seeing that may have been the better decision in the long run.
Hey, I have not bought an Xbox game in God knows how long. But I can sure as hell tell you when I went and bought Spider-Man 2 on launch. I went and bought Final Fantasy 16 on launch. That's not a first party game, but it sure shit wasn't on PlayStation Plus.
And that's exactly it, right? It's because, like, yeah, you're 100% right. I can't tell you the last time I bought a game on Xbox. I have a Series X, and I've just been, I hop onto Game Pass when there's a title that I want to play, and I'm hop off when I'm done with it. I treat it like a rental because that's all it effectively is, and that's all that I need it to be. I'm not the kind of person that will revisit games over and over again because I don't have that kind of bandwidth. So, but like you said, PlayStation titles, yeah, I'm buying them. I'm buying the collector's editions. I'm picking these things up day and date because hope sailed down the river about these titles ever coming day and date. But guess what? PlayStation, yes, of course, has had cancellations. Yes, of course, people have lost their jobs here. 1000%. And I will never say that they haven't. But a lot of, the biggest core parts of what makes PlayStation is still here. We've lost some. Japan Studio, of course. There's these things that we have lost along the way. But, it is what it is. And it seems to be that they have made the right decision in the long run in keeping these cards close to their chest and now doing it whatever. I can't see a world where Xbox survives in its current state outside of being just anything more than a publisher. But what I want to ask you is, what lessons do you think PlayStation can learn from this? Because even this year, even in the last handful of months, we've been kind of surprised a little bit with PlayStation's approach. In the midst of tariffs and everything else, and Nintendo jacking games ups and raising prices, and now there's an imminent price increase of Switch stuff, the original
like
Switch stuff,
OG Switch stuff.
OG
And
Switch stuff.
they also increase. I got an email that they're increasing the Nintendo Switch Online as well.
That's what I mean. So like in a world
cheap.
where all of these things are going up, Xbox is raising their game prices come holiday to $89.99 American, which jacks them to over $100 Canadian here.
Yep.
PlayStation has not thus far announced any price increases for their first party games. They haven't announced any price increases on their consoles. I'm sure these things are all coming down the road, but right now they are basking in good press. People are literally saying buy a PS5 Pro now because it's the cheapest it's ever going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So what can PlayStation learn from what Xbox has been doing?
Oh, I mean, the easy answer is don't do what Xbox does. But I think the biggest thing is they've already maybe seen the mistakes that Xbox has made or figured it out. I mean, like we just talked about right now, like their PlayStation Plus offerings versus Xbox Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's something we've also seen in the previous generation as well, like how they were more consumer friendly and actually, the backlash of everything that happened with Xbox caused them to pivot with like online and needing to have Connect and all that stuff on Xbox One. So I think Sony might already. This is gonna be weird praise given the way we talked about them recently. They may already have their finger on the pulse and know what they need to do. I think it's an identity thing for them. Is know your identity, know where you stand, and know what you deliver as an experience to your players. Don't be scared to kind of go outside that and be experimental, but at the same time, don't completely abandon what has been your bread and butter this whole time.
I think it's interesting because I feel like now I think you're right. Like maybe despite all of the talk online and so on and so forth about the decision not to bring the first party titles to PlayStation Plus has now ultimately proven to be the right decision for them as a company. And they've gotten smacked back with their live service offerings in a very loud and a very public way.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the end of that because we know Fair Games is coming. We know that there are still multiple Horizon projects in the works that will essentially be a mix of MMO and live service, but they are now in a place where I feel like they have cleared the Game Pass hurdle. They have cleared whatever Xbox is doing. And now the next kind of frontier for them will be re-engaging in a way with Nintendo that they haven't had to in a long time. Because if they are going for a handheld fight, then they're going to have to now fight with Nintendo. It feels like for the last couple decades, Nintendo's been in their little corner doing their thing. Like you wouldn't even compete, take something like the Wii versus the PS3 because they were fundamentally different experiences entirely, down to the controllers, down to the way that down to the way that the games are designed, down to everything about them. And now the Switch 2 is effectively a weaker PS5, and that's not a bad thing. I love my Switch 2. This thing's great. But if PlayStation is kind of shoring up to get into the ring here, they're going to have to figure this shit out in a way that will make them competitive in a post-Xbox world where Nintendo now becomes a bigger and priority threat.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. They've always been a threat. I think just people have always looked at it as, more in a bubble. Like, okay, Nintendo, like, you've got the Switch, which is almost hitting PS2 numbers in terms of sales.
Yeah, huge.
Right? And you've got your PS4, Xbox One, PS5, Xbox Series, because that's kind of what it's been competing against in their own bubble about who out of those two is really winning the console war for that generation. But no one's been looking at Nintendo like that. So I think Nintendo's already got them beat hands down, especially when you're selling like, what do they sell? Like 5 million consoles already?
Something
5 million
stupid,
Switch 2, something crazy. I can't. If you're Sony, you can't even look at that as a number. You just need to make sure you have damn good hardware, damn good games, and let it do the talking.
Yep, and because the thing is, I feel like up until now, it wouldn't be uncommon in most households to have a PS5 or an Xbox and a Switch. Those two things kind of were hand in hand because they delivered fundamentally different experiences.
Yep.
If PlayStation's getting into the ring now, they're going to have to start speaking to the people that own Switches or have not yet upgraded to a Switch 2 and start to make their claim as to why this one should be the one that they buy rather than the other. because now they're going to be directly competing in a way that, like, yes, you're right that I don't think PlayStation's handheld will ever touch the numbers that the Switch has. But you have to remember there was a time where the PSP sold insane numbers.
Oh yeah,
like insane numbers. It wasn't the Vita, clearly, but like the PSP, the original, sold crazy numbers in a world where they were going up against the the DS at the time.
yeah,
Right. So they're going to have to re-engage a fan base that they haven't in quite some time. And I feel like looking at everything that Xbox has done, acquiring all of these studios, and I want to bring in Ant Wango again here, whereas Xbox has wasted a ton of money acquiring these massive studios and IPs and sacked the majority of the creatives who made these IPs. 100%.
Yep.
100%. You bought these things just to gut them. Why? Are you a private equity fucking firm? Like, come on. It's going to be interesting to see how everything falls out over the course of the next few years, because PlayStation is by no means out of the water, but they've essentially won, by all intents and purposes, a fight that they've been waging for the last couple of decades, and now a new and old fight starts all over again in the next couple of years if these reports of a handheld PS6 are true. Let's bring in let's bring in another question here, because Justin writes in with another question saying, do you think Sony threw a pity party for Xbox with Helldivers 2 on their platform? Hey, you got layoffs, have Helldivers.
No. I think it was a calculated olive branch.
As much as I think it was an olive branch, I think it was also, I'd be curious to see if Sony's live service offerings that they had, like, let's say Concord did well, let's say The Last of Us Online hit, let's say these things that they had in the pipeline that was set to release in the last couple of years, let's say they came out, they were good, and they are widely played. I don't think we'd even see Helldivers on Xbox at that point. I think right now they have one live service game that has done well, and they need to make some money back, regardless of how much it's going to be. They need to make some money back now at a point where they know that they don't have anything too major coming in the pipeline. We know Yote's coming, Death Stranding 2 just hit, but we still don't know much about what their next year looks like. So if they're going to be able to get some money back for a bunch of studios and IPs that they lost money on, Helldivers is the easy port. Because what else would you do?
Yeah.
Let's move away from Xbox territory. Let's round out the show with some questions from the audience. Todd Oxford writes in, Todd, I saw your question literally as we closed out the show last week, so I believe you wrote in while we were talking, so I saved it for this week. But Todd writes in saying, I just got Death Stranding 2 from Gamefly. I need to watch a recap of the original. Is Kojima's persona a distraction from the game? Does he need to stop making himself the focus? I don't think so.
No.
Kojima has that like auteur video game thing to him. You play a Kojima game because it's a Kojima game.
Yep.
If it wasn't a Kojima game, it wouldn't be as special. So like you come into it, like there's been videos going around now. There's like these like hot springs in Death Stranding 2, and you can like look up and see constellations. And if you look at a certain one, it's he literally just put his face in the game. It's like literally just like a PNG of him in the stars. And it's that kind of shit that like if you're on Kojima's ride, you're in for it. I don't think you could separate Kojima from a Kojima game and it be what it is,
Do you remember the backlash when Phantom Pain came out and they removed the tagline a Hideo Kojima game from the box art, and everyone was up in arms?
Yep. He's one of the few like big names in this industry that I think even transcend outside of the industry. I mean, obviously if he's working with actual movie directors and stuff now, like and he brings in big names, big actors from across TV and movie. He clearly has that persona is part of the package now, and I think trying to divorce that from what he makes, I think is just a less interesting product, because we have non-Kojima games everywhere else, for better or for worse.
That's true.
You only get the Kojima game with Kojima involved, and I think let him center himself. Let him shoot a shot.
So I think sorry, I was at EB Games today where I picked up my Final Fantasy pack.
Hell yeah.
And I saw a copy of the collector's edition of Death Stranding 2. And I was overhearing the employees as I was kind of perusing, and the guy was like, "Hey, I really, really want to get that collector's edition. And honestly, I don't want anything else from it except for the letter written by Kojima.
There you go.
I don't care that I know they wrote it once and then they probably just like, Xeroxed it a billion times.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want it for. I don't care for anything else. I want that letter."
Mm-hmm.
So I think, again, that also speaks to kind of like, I've been using this word a lot today, the pedigree.
Ooh, good word.
Right?
Mm.
Like that comes with a name.
Like, I think even people who haven't played a Kojima game know him. They know him. They know that his games are weird and out there. But again, like you're not going to get that experience anywhere else from anyone else. You have your Kojima, you have like your Suda 51, you have your Neil Druckmann, I think is on his way up. Like these games that like if you know this person involved, for a certain audience, that is enough for them to buy in. Forget anything else. Marcus Lee in the chat, do you guys prefer Nintendo or Xbox? I grew up playing all three, but I've always been a PlayStation first, then Nintendo, then Xbox. I know I had plenty of friends who were the other way around, but for me still, like I own all three. I have Miyamoto, another great one. Anyway, thank you in the chat. I own all three. I have a Switch 2, I have an Xbox Series X, I have a PS5. My X is my Game Pass machine where I play mostly indies or Xbox Game Studios titles that hit day one on Game Pass. But yeah, I'm more Nintendo than I am Xbox.
Yeah, I would say the same. That those are like, if I had to say what my go-to consoles are my PS5 and my Switch 2. So
agreed. Nagachaka writes in saying, "Is Clear Obscure Expedition 33 really as good as people say? It's in my backlog, but I have Control, Persona 3 Reload, Final Fantasy 16, and Metal Gear Solid 5 waiting for me as well." Nagachaka, I wanna just shout out the homie Savoy Prime, who immediately jumped down his throat for asking this question.
No, really?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull in Bluesky here for a sec. Both friends of the show. But Nagachaka asks this question. Savoy Prime immediately claps back with, "No, everybody is lying, and E33 isn't as good as people say," with the sarcasm gift. Followed through with Nagachaka being a little salty about it, and Savoy Prime saying, "You deserve that. That was one of the worst questions of all time." Nagachaka clapping back with, "One of the worst of all time. Is that so? Challenge accepted." And Savoy Prime, which is with the skull. Nagachaka, I know you. I know your gaming tastes. Yes, this should be at the top of your list more than anything else. The Clear Obscure Expedition 33 should be the thing that you are playing now. It is better than all of those games that you have listed. And you know me, I am a Persona diehard. I love Persona 3 Reload. Control's fantastic. Final Fantasy 16 real good. Phantom Pain, awesome. Expedition 33 clears all of those by a country fucking mile.
I have many of those games on my backlog, and I do not feel guilty for starting and playing Expedition 33 at all.
You also have to remember that like it's shorter than a lot of these experiences that you have listed as well. So like you can bang it out faster than a lot of these other games. But Expedition 33, let me tell you this, Nagachaka, in a way that you will understand. I don't think I felt about a game in this way since playing Persona 4 Golden for the first time. And that is how much I absolutely adore Expedition 33 being like a generational top 5 title for me of all time.
That's a statement. Holy
yeah.
cow.
Yeah, I'll fucking stake my claim right then and there. Play it, Nagachaka, immediately. The rest will be thereafter. And if I had to number them, I would say Expedition 33, then go Persona 3 Reload, then go Control just to break up the pace, then Final Fantasy 16, and then round out with Phantom Pain.
Yeah.
Bit of back and forth diversity there. Daniru-kun.
Who's that guy?
Writes in saying, "Hey guys, long time listener, first time caller. Do you think Square Enix will actually announce the Final Fantasy 9 remake tomorrow, July 7th, or will there be a lot of upset fans?" Denny, did you see the rumors going around today that the Final Fantasy 9 remake?
I don't want to talk about it. No, don't say it. Don't say it. It's shut up, Matt. I don't want to hear about it.
It might not be looking so hot, my friend. Again, rumors and scuttlebutt. I hope that this thing is real, and I hope it's awesome because I've never played the original, and I would welcome a way to engage with this. Yeah, listen, we have a number of games that you need to get through before we even start looking. You even start looking at me like that.
How's your movie list going, by the way?
Shut up. I don't think they're going to announce it tomorrow.
Hey, fair. Okay, but
tell me.
Okay, I'm gonna backtrack to something. Do you remember that time? I can't remember what game we played, but you owe me and Rice like 5 hours of whatever game.
Sure.
I'm gonna make mine Final Fantasy 9.
Done.
Okay.
But tell me, do you expect to see this tomorrow?
You know what? Honestly, I didn't. Pie in the sky, wishful thinking. It would be nice to celebrate the actual 25th anniversary of the launch with an announcement. Like, I'm not expecting a shadow drop or anything. So it'd be cool if they're doing some sort of music live stream tomorrow. So like, imagine like the hype and like the fanfare that they're like, oh, by the way, here's a trailer or something. But no, I don't think it's gonna happen. I think there's gonna be a lot of sad people tomorrow.
You know what I could see them doing is literally like a tweet of like a JPEG letter, basically being like, thank you to all the fans, 25 years of Final Fantasy 9. We love the history, blah, 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 blah. And we're very excited to talk more about the next chapter of Final Fantasy 9 later this year, ... kind of thing. I could see, if this thing is real and is going well, I could see them setting up a tease for like the Game Awards or Gamescom. I could see something like that, or TGS. But I don't think we'll actually get any proper confirmation tomorrow. But I can see them giving a cheeky little wink.
That'd be nice.
I could see a cheeky little wink.
Please and thank you.
Our final question comes in from Justin one more time, saying, "What's for dinner tonight?" That's all the questions I got. Justin, we appreciate you coming hard with in the paint with the questions today.
Yeah,
what's for dinner? I already ate. We had a bunch of we had some friends over yesterday, and we ordered like a bunch of platters of Greek food. So we had a bunch of leftover Greek food. So we had that for dinner, and that shit slapped. Denny, what's on the menu?
I'm going chicken wings. I'm craving chicken wings.
You are.
I'm gonna go make some after this.
What kind of chicken wings? Set the stage for me.
I can't. It's a secret recipe.
No way.
Yeah, way.
You motherfucker. Is it like a spicy? Is it a breaded? You got to give me something. You don't have to go into the 11 secret spices, but paint the picture for me a little bit here.
They're not breaded.
Okay.
So they're going to be kind of a classic wing.
Yeah.
And there is a homemade hot sauce. So yes, it's a spicy habanero.
It's a hot wing.
Scotch bonnet mix. It's a hot wing.
It's a hot wing. A hot wing for a hot boy. That brings us to the end of this week's show, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, all of you folks in the chat. We appreciate all of you, all the questions, and everybody else in this wonderful community of ours. Denny, where can people see and hear more from you?
They can find me on Twitch and Instagram, and I will dabble in a few other socials as well. So if you're interested in following me on anything, they're all my Linktree. So Linktree/Denerican Gaming.
Go check out Denny and all the spots. Of course, go follow Rice at twitch.tv/RiceBoy. That's with three Y's, Rice Boy TV. Rice will be back next week. Of course, Court is around as well. You can find me over here at Cults of Creatures, and of course, you can find my writing over at butwhythough.net as well, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. Everybody, be well, stay safe, take care of one another, and remember, fuck the executives. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Later.